call it Tales. May my eyes never lose sight of why I have come here, that I never be claimed by the falsity of fear, or eat the bread of bitterness. Hello, and welcome to Chapter 5 of Tarot Tales, a weekly gathering where I tell a little-known fairy tale based on a randomly drawn tarot card from the week prior. If you were with me last week, you know that last week I drew the Six of Cups, which is this beautiful card featuring these two children hovering over this little cup with all of these 5-starred white flowers. They're in this castle, which I learned represents security. And if this adult is willing to walk away from them, then they must be in a safe place, right? So upright, childhood memories. Backwards, being stuck in the past. There are a lot of different variations of this, but I became really fascinated with this idea of being stuck in the past and having childhood memories, and specifically how that is going to gel with fairy tales, right? Because most of the time we're dealing with some pretty messed up stuff from the modern mind. So I decided to lean into the most fucked up fairy tale that I know about, largely lauded as Grimm's most upsetting fairy tale. And that's what I've got for you all today. So before we dive into that, let's talk about our refreshments. So I've got this lovely person sitting at a bar drinking 6 cups of martini, which is the drink that we happen to have for ourselves today. So I've got the Pickle Martini here for all of you to enjoy, which is basically just a dirty martini, but with pickle juice instead of olive juice, which is something that was introduced to me by this lovely bar called Sweet Afton here in Astoria. So shout out Sweet Afton. I really enjoy your drinks. And if you are not drinking, I was thinking that the toddler version of going to a bar and being like, give me something strong would be a Martinelli's neat. So I hope you're enjoying a Martinelli's and like a nice chilled glass, something like really strong. So enjoy that. And if you are or are not having a drink with me tonight, regardless, I'm very happy that you are joining me either live or asynchronously. So to whoever you are, cheers. I love that. So if you would like to get these recipes a little bit ahead of time, please look in the description below where you'll find different ways to stay in touch, in addition to today's text if you would like to follow along. And speaking of today's text, let's dive on into it because we have a lot of drama to produce today. So this week, as I've already said, comes from Grimm's Fairy Tales. It's a series of 3 translations that have kind of meshed together to find a good medley. And so I am proud to present to all of you Chapter 5, The Juniper Tree. All this took place some 2,000 years ago. There was a rich man who had a beautiful and pious wife, and they loved each other very much. Though they didn't have any children, they longed to have some. Day and night, the wife prayed to have a child. But still, they remained childless. Now, in front of the house, there was a yard, and in the yard stood a juniper tree. One winter day, the wife was under the tree peeling an apple, and she cut her finger, and the blood dripped into the snow. "Oh," said the wife, and she heaved a great sigh as she looked at the blood before her. "If only I had a child as red as blood and as white as snow. Red as blood, white as snow." And as she spoke the words, her heart grew light within her. As the months passed and the snow vanished, another month went by and all the earth was green again. So the months followed one after another, and the trees budded in the woods. The blossoms began to fall, and the fruit became round, firm, and ripe. The wife picked the berries and eagerly ate them, but she soon grew sad and ill. A little while later, she called her husband and said to him, weeping, "If I die, bury me under the juniper tree." Okay, so this is a great time to pause and talk about what a juniper tree actually is. So a juniper tree is kind of like a pine tree. It's got these long, thin little needles all about it, and it creates these little berries. But the thing that you would probably know a juniper tree from is the fact that it is in gin. It's what gives gin its flavor most of the time. It also can be in a beer called Sati, which is this Finnish beer that uses juniper branches instead of hops. So that's why we have this lovely little martini this evening. Mm. And a fun little variation on beer. So I hope you enjoy. Also, the reason that I'm telling you this is because the berries can sometimes be toxic, which is probably why this lovely lady is dying right now. "If I die," she said, "please bury me under the juniper tree." And then she felt comforted and happy, and before a month had passed, she gave birth to a little child. And when she saw that he was as white as snow and as red as blood, she was so grateful and so full of joy that she died. Well, her husband buried her under the juniper tree as she wished, and he wept bitterly for her over time. However, his sorrow grew less as the days passed, and eventually he married again. With his second wife, he had a daughter named Marlene. The new wife loved her daughter very, very much, and when she looked at her, and then she looked at the boy, it pierced her heart to think that he would always stand in the way of her inheritance. Gradually, the devil influenced her feelings towards the boy until she became quite cruel towards him. She pushed him from one place to the next. She slapped him here, cuffed him there, so that the poor child lived in constant fear. When he came home from school, he found no peace at all. One day, Marlene came home, and she said to her mother, "Mother, give me an apple." "Oh, yes, my child," said the wife, and she gave a beautiful apple to her daughter from the chest. Now, the chest had a very large and heavy lid with a sharp iron lock, important later. "Mother," said the little daughter, "shouldn't brother get one too?" Well, now the woman was irritated by that remark, but she said, "Yes, as soon as he comes home from school." And when she looked out the window and saw him coming, the devil took possession of her, and she snatched the apple away from her daughter, who ran to the next room. "You shan't have one before your brother," she said, and threw the apple into the chest and shot it. Meanwhile, the little boy came home from school, and the evil one compelled her to be friendly to him and say, "Would you like to have an apple, my son?" Yet she gave him a wicked look. "Mother," said the little boy, "how angry you look. Give me an apple." Then she felt compelled to coax him, feeling he was suspicious. "Come over here," she said, and lifted the lid of the large chest with the sharp iron lock, "and take an apple out for yourself." And as the boy leaned over the chest, the devil prompted her and crashed. She slammed the lid so hard that his head flew off and fell among the apples. Well, suddenly she was struck by fear and thought, "Oh, how am I going to get out of this?" So she went to her room, straight to her dresser, where she took out a handkerchief. She put the boy's head back on his neck, bound it with a kerchief so that nothing could be seen. Then she set him on a chair in front of the door, put an apple in his hand, and let him be. So Soon after this, Marlene, her one and only daughter, came to her mother, who was stirring a pot of boiling water over a fire, and said, "Mother, brother is sitting by the door with an apple in his hand, and he looks so pale. When I asked him to give me the apple, he did not answer, and that frightened me." "Well, go back to him," said her mother, "and if he does not answer, give him a box on the ears." So little Marlene went, and she said, "Brother, give me that apple." But he did not say a word. And then she gave him a box on the ears, and his head fell clean off. The Marlene was terrified. She began crying and screaming. She ran to her mother and said, "Oh, mother, I have knocked my brother's head off." And she cried and could not be consoled. Well, what did the mother do? Her one and only mother. "Oh, Marlene, what have you done? Be quiet and don't let anyone know about it. It cannot be helped now. We'll make a stew out of him." So the mother took the little boy, chopped him into pieces, put him into a pot, and let him stew. Marlene stood nearby and wept in the corner all of her tears into the pot so that it didn't need any salt. When the father eventually came home, he sat down at the table and he asked, "Where's my son?" The mother said nothing and served up a large dish of stew while Marlene sat in the corner crying endlessly. The father asked again, "Where is my son?" "Whoa," answered the wife. He's gone into the country with his mother's great uncle. He intends to stay there a while." "Well, what is he doing there? He didn't even say goodbye to me." "Well, he wanted to go very badly, and he asked me if he could stay there 6 weeks. But I said yes, they'll take good care of him." "Oh, well, that makes me sad," said the man. "It's not right. He should have said goodbye to me." And then he began to eat and said, "Oh, Marlene, what are you crying for? Our brother will come back soon. Oh, why, this food tastes great. Give me some more." And the more he ate, the more he wanted. "Give me some more," he said. "I'm not going to share this with you. Somehow I feel as if this was all mine." And he ate and threw the bones under the table until he was all done. And after dinner, little Marlene went upstairs and took her best silk handkerchief out from her bottom drawer, weeping, and wrapped all of the bones from under the table in that handkerchief. She carried them outside, set them in the grass under the juniper tree. And as soon as she left, the juniper tree began to move. The branches waved backwards and forwards as if they were clapping their hands in joy. And at the same time, smoke came out of the tree. And in the middle of the smoke, there was a flame that seemed to be humming. And then a beautiful bird flew out of the fire and began singing magnificently. He soared high into the air, and after he vanished, the juniper tree was still there as it was before. Yet Marlene's silk handkerchief was gone. The bird flew far away until it landed on the roof of a goldsmith's house and began to sing. "My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister Marlene, she made sure to see. My bones were gathered secretly, bound neatly in silk, as neat as can be, and laid beneath the juniper tree. Tweet, tweet, what a lovely bird I am." Well, the goldsmith was sitting in his workshop making a gold chain, and he heard the bird singing on his roof, and he thought the song was beautiful. "Bird," he said, "how beautifully you sing. Sing me that song again." Somehow, this bird is able to communicate with this human. This human, despite being able to communicate with this bird, has not processed the contents of the song that was just sung. However, it was so beautiful to this human being, he is requiring it be sung again. And I love that this motif is about to be repeated 4 times throughout the remainder of the story. Sing me that song again. No, said the bird. I never sing twice for nothing. Give me that golden chain and I'll sing it for you again. I love that this bird is coming out like sassy and like needing things. It's definitely just like getting what it's worth, and I'm a big fan. All right, said the goldsmith. Here's the golden chain. Now sing the song again. And the bird swooped down, grasped the golden chain in his right claw, and sang the song again. Then the bird flew to a shoemaker, landed on his roof, and sang, my mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, Marlene, she made sure to see. My bones were gathered secretly, bound nicely in silk as neat as can be, and laid beneath the juniper tree. Tweet, tweet, what a lovely little bird I am. And then the shoemaker and his wife heard the song and ran to the door. Bird, said the shoemaker, how beautifully you sing. Sing me that song again. No, said the bird, I shall never sing twice for nothing. You'll have to give me a present. Wife, said the man, go into the attic. There's a pair of red shoes on top of the shelf. Go and get them for me. His wife went and fetched the shoes. There, said the man, now sing the song again. The bird swooped down, picked up the red shoes in his left claw, and flew back up to the roof and sang the song again. When the bird finished the song, he flew away. And he had the chain in his hand and the shoes in his left hand, and he flew away to a far mill. Well, the mill went clickety-clack, 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 clickety-clack. And the miller had 20 men sitting at the mill, all working together to hew a stone. And the bird swooped down and landed on a linden tree outside the mill and sang. Now, we absolutely have to pause again. And I know some of you are going to say, Isto, too many tree facts today, but it's important because the linden tree is super cool and we need to talk about it. So first and foremost, the linden tree is like this beautiful little bushy tree that's got these heart-shaped leaves and these really gnarly cool roots. It's also called tilia in the scientific name, but it's called basswood North America. In Europe and in Northern Ireland, it's called a lime tree, even though it has no association with a lime. But linden actually comes from an adjective referring to tree of the lime. So lind tree, lime tree, you can see how that would maybe evolve eventually. But very, very cool. And the actual wood that is made up of this tree is used often to make instruments and marionettes, which is also super freaking cool. The tree itself is hermaphroditic, so it can continue to reproduce, and they live to be super, super old. There's a tree in Gloucestershire, I don't know, correct me. But it's apparently 2,000 years old in England, that linden tree. Anyway, so that is the tree that this bird happens to grace this week. The bird swooped down and landed on a linden tree outside the mill and sang, my mother, she killed me. And then one of the men stopped working. My father, he ate me. Another man stopped and listened. My sister, Marlene, she made sure to see. 4 more men stopped and listened to the bird. My bones were gathered secretly, bound nicely in silk as neat as can be. Now only 8 kept chiseling, and laid beneath, now only 5. The juniper tree, now only 1. Tweet, tweet, what a lovely little bird I am. And at last, the final one stopped and listened to the final words and said, oh, bird, how beautifully you sing. Let me hear that again. Sing your song for me again. But the bird said, no, I never sing twice for nothing. Give me the millstone and I'll sing that song again. Well, I would if I could, he said, but the millstone doesn't belong to me alone. Well, if he sings, said the other, he can have it. And the bird swooped down, and all 20 of the miller's men took some wooden beams to lift the stone, and heave-ho, 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 lifted the millstone and put the stone over the bird's neck. And the bird flew back to the tree and sang his song. And now is a fantastic time to talk about what a millstone might be. You may be thinking to yourself that a bird could maybe hold a chain. Probably not 2 pairs of shoes, but definitely not what sounds like a millstone. But I have some more information for you about what a millstone is that's going to make it more infeasible. So this is like the general stone that is used. It doesn't actually have this like peppermint image to it, but these are grooves that are called furrows, and the flat parts are called lands. And this is what is used to like grind grains and nuts and whatnot into a fine powder that can be used to create other different things, flowers and whatnot. But the thing that you need to know is that this millstone weighs 3,000 pounds or 1,500 kilograms. So quite heavy, impossible that a bird would have it, except for magic. Anyway, so this bird has the millstone around its neck. And when the bird had finished singing its song, he spread his wings, and with the chain in his right claw, the shoes in his left, and the millstone round his neck, he flew right away to his father's house. His father, his mother, and his sister Marlene were all sitting down together at dinner. "How light-hearted I feel," said the father. "So pleased, so cheerful. I feel as though I was going to see an old friend again." "Oh, I feel as if a heavy thunderstorm were coming," said the mother. Marlene sat in the corner weeping, understandably. The bird swooped down into the juniper tree, where he perched on a branch and began singing. The mother stopped her ears, shut her eyes, and tried not to see or hear anything. But there was a roaring sound in her ears, like that of a violent storm, and in her eyes a burning and a flashing like lightning. "Oh, mother," said the man, "listen to that bird singing so beautifully. I'm going to go see what that bird is up to." "Oh, don't go," cried the wife. "I feel as if the whole house were shaking and were about to go up in flames." Nevertheless, the man went out and looked at the bird. At the end of the song, the bird dropped a golden chain, and it fell around the man's neck perfectly. He went inside and said, "Well, look how lovely that bird is. He gave me this beautiful golden chain." And the bird sang again, "My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me." And then the woman fell down as if she were dead. "My sister Marlene, she made sure to see." "Well," said little Marlene, "I will go out too and see if that little bird will give me something." The bones were gathered secretly, bound nicely in silk, as neat as can be, and the bird threw down the shoes to her and laid them beneath the juniper tree. "Tweet, tweet, what a lovely bird I am." Now, Marlene felt quite happy and cheerful. She put on the shoes and danced and skipped her way back to the house. "Oh," she said, "I was so sad when I went out there, and now I feel so cheerful. That certainly is a splendid bird. He gave me a pair of red shoes as a gift." Well, the wife sprung up with her hair standing out and her heart on fire like flames. She said, "Well, then I will go out too." And as she entered the threshold, all of the sudden, the bird looked at her and threw the millstone down upon her head until she was crushed to death. The father and Marlene heard the crash and went outside. Smoke and flames and fire were rising from the spot. But when they got there, they found their child, the brother, standing in the debris. He took his father and Marlene by the hand, and all three of them rejoiced. And then they went into the house, sat down at the table, and ate. The end. So I love this story for a number of different reasons. Not only is it deeply, deeply disturbed, but there are a couple of deep issues inherent in the story that raise a lot of questions. So, all of these characters hearing the bird but not responding to it is a very interesting choice. Not understanding the depth of it. But the biggest thing that I love is imagining the three of these people trying to have a healthy and happy life after all of this happens. He has eaten his son, who has somehow come back to life. She thinks she murdered this son, who then became a stew and has continued to live in this. He allowed that to happen and married the stepmother that ingratiated all of this. Anyway, all this to say, in honor of the Six of Cups, I thought that this was a very fitting card in the idea of living in your childhood, living in your past, and maybe overcoming it. Because, some people are strong. Some people do overcome things that are as fucked up as that. Not sure as fucked up as that, because the millstone bird carrying thing is a kind of a unique thing, but I don't know. Humanity is beautiful. All right, let us draw the card for next week. I'm going to do a little shuffle, keep it live, keep it fresh. And we'll cut and turn before I draw. And what have we got? We have, what is it? Oh, we have the world upside down. Oh, how very Hamilton of us all. All right, well, I will learn a little bit about this. I don't know anything about the world, although hot take, it seems like there's some variety around a beautiful woman who's doing some baton twirling, which I'm a big fan of, love some baton twirling. So excited to learn more about this. If you know anything about this card and would like to provide me any information around that, then please use the feedback form below to provide me any of that information and any story suggestions that you may have. You may, if you are paying attention to the scavenger hunt, have noticed that there is not a clue hidden in the background this week. That's because I'm giving you a verbal clue this week. So, clue 5. The last 4 clues point in one direction. Together, they depict one place. And if you're not paying attention to the scavenger hunt, I hope that maybe you start to now. There we go. Excellent. As for my gratitude this week, as I spent a lot of time thinking about childhood, I spent about time spent in my grandma and grandpa's hot tub, which I spent with my sister, my cousins, Adam, Alexandra, Stephanie, and Russell. So I just want to send some gratitude to all of you for a pleasant childhood in the midst of everything else. Thank you for playing hide and seek and having fun in my grandparents' weird hot tub with me. I love you all. And so until next week, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you treat yourself with love and respect. May you continue to grow and find the strength to persevere through the painful parts of growth. May you find inspiration all around you. And may you find peace. Thank you for joining me this week. Until next week. Bye, y'all. Uh-oh.